evening. Welcome to the May 13th Falmouth Conservation Commission hearing. At this point in time, I'm going to ask anybody if you have a phone, electronic devices, please silence them. During the hearing, you're invited to make comments if you wish to do so. In doing that, we ask that you come up to the podium, and for the record, Susan, tell us who you are so she can get that on the record, and be recognized by the chair in doing so, and I'll make that window of opportunity available to you. So, first up this evening is minutes of April 29th, 2015. Has anybody been able to read the minutes?
I have not.
Okay, we're going to scoot past that. All right, next is request for determination of applicability. This is the lesser of the two permits heard tonight. A negative determination is what you want to hear to keep the progress going on the project. It is where staff goes out, reviews the project, gives us their recommendation, and we vote on what staff presents to us. The first one this evening is 81 Indian Ridge Road, West Falmouth, Mass, for permission to install a 1.5-foot by 60-foot stone wall, 10-foot by 16-foot bluestone patio, freestanding pergola, and to install native mitigation plantings. Okay.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, the staff has reviewed the project. We are recommending a -2 under the state and the bylaw with the resource area boundaries not confirmed.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, that's Russell's motion, Maury's second. Is there any further discussion on the board? Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak to this project? Seeing none, call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, opposed? Any abstention? Unanimous, so moved. Jamie, you can come back in. Yep.
See you, Chris. Have a good night.
Next is 0 and 67 Spinnaker Lane, and 0 and 67 Spinnaker Lane, and 75, 75 and 85 Clinton Ave, Falmouth, Mass, for permission to repair, maintain, and resurface approximately 220 linear feet of existing concrete seawall with 300 linear feet of mortared stone riprap that includes removal of loose mortar and application of gunite surfacing to clean and remove loose mortar from the mortared wall, fill voids with small chink stone and/or crushed stone, then mortar and point, all work by hand. If I said mortar one more time, holy cow. Jen?
We're recommending a -2 under the state and the bylaw with the resource area boundaries not confirmed.
So
Can we
moved.
do that again, Mr. Chairman? Certainly. It's a whole bunch of mortar in different
I don't
areas.
think you need to read that yet.
So moved.
That's Russell's motion and Michael's second. Is there any further discussion on the board? Is there anyone in the audience who would like to address this project? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstention? Unanimous, so moved. Next, 42 Fiddler's Cove Road, North Falmouth, Mass, for permission to remove and replace in kind 11 formally approved licensed pilings.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, we're recommending a -2 under the state and bylaw with the resource area boundaries not confirmed.
So moved.
Second.
That'll be Michael's motion, Russell's second. Is there any further discussion on the board? Is there anyone in the audience who'd like to speak to this project? Seeing none, call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstention? Unanimous, so moved. Moving forward, we have Lot 0, Shorewood Drive, Community Beach Number 3, map 40-01-003-000, East Falmouth, Mass, for permission to reset the existing pilings displaced due to heavy ice in their previously approved locations using a barge.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, we're recommending a -2 under the state and the bylaw with the resource area boundaries not confirmed. So moved.
Second.
That's Maury's motion. Mike's second. Is there any further discussion on the board? Is there anyone in the audience who would like to talk to this project? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Any Any abstention? Unanimous, so moved. We're now going on to the request for a hearing under a notice of intent. All hearings of the Falmouth Conservation Commission are simultaneously held under the authorities of the Massachusetts Wetland Protection Act and the Falmouth Wetlands Bylaw. Although a single decision of the commission is issued, it represents a separate decision under each authority. I would also, at this point in time, like to introduce two new members that were voted in this week. And I'm very grateful that they both did, because we had quorum issues, and we would have had them tonight. If these people had not volunteered, we would not be able to have the hearing. We were that close on quorum. First is, to my right, is Mr. Matthews, and then there's Ms. Hawks at the end.
Tom?
All right, so this is, first up is 73 Paola Drive, East Falmouth, Mass, for permission to demolish the existing dwelling and construct a 5-bedroom, single-family house with an attached garage, deck, and stairs, covered porch, install a Title V sewage disposal system, native mitigation plantings, dry wells, utilities, reconfigure the driveway, regrade, and the associated clearing, excavating, grading, and landscaping.
Joel, you're up. I'll save any of my comments or questions till after the presentation, Mr. Chairman.
Good evening, Joel Cubic, Holmes and McGrath. We prepared this plan. As you just mentioned, this is a tear down and rebuild. The resource area most closely adjacent to the work is the salt marsh. We are actually moving the new proposed house further back than the existing house currently is. But we are within a portion of the FWR Zone A, which we are mitigating for with the proposed plants up along the edge of the clearing at the end of the lawn there. The Title V system is going out in the front towards the street. It's an improvement on the existing system. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you. Jen?
Joel, how
Yes.
did you get that spring high tide on?
Jeff Johnson went out there and saw that there was a rack line right there. There is an elevation difference.
Jeff went out there and got your spring high tide line?
The edge of the salt marsh is
Yeah.
based on that, yeah.
And he didn't talk to you today about after I saw him?
We discussed that. There's no published spring tide for that. I did find some information on the town's Bourne Pond opening report, and that had an elevation.
So basically, you guys did the spring
That's-
high tide based on the highest rack line?
Vegetation and the rack line, correct?
Highest rack line,
Yeah.
okay.
And that does correspond with this information I found from the town's report.
Okay, can I see that?
Sure.
Sorry. Thanks.
Do you have just the one?
I did, yeah, sorry. I mean, initially it was based just on the rack line and the vegetation that we found out in the field, and Jeff brought that up today, so we tried to get a little more substantial
Yeah.
evidence for it.
No, that's fine.
Does that alleviate your concerns?
Yes and no. But that's it for right now.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, we're going to poll the board. I'm going to start to my left. Mike?
No questions.
Russ?
It's funny you mentioned that rack line, because it seems like it's the same vegetation on both sides of it. That's why I was kind of concerned.
Well, it's the predominance of that salt marsh vegetation was on that side. He did soil auger tests. I mean, if it does move a little bit, I don't see how it's going to really affect this, because we're still moving it back. Even if we did, if that FWR Zone A came up here, we're replacing existing house with new house, so the mitigation plans aren't going to change really. I mean, if you wanted to approve the project, if that's the way the board feels, without determining the boundaries of the wetland resource, I think you have the opportunity to do that.
Okay.
We're gonna hit, Jamie, welcome aboard.
Yeah, thank you.
Yep.
I don't have any questions.
Maury.
I didn't have any questions, just the rack line.
So I think
I
we,
mean, the issue is, Mr. Chairman, that you're not following it. Salt marsh is based on the predominance of salt marsh vegetation near spring high tide line. You can have salt marsh vegetation that is landward of that spring high tide line. And that's what Mark saw in the field and what Russ and I saw in the field. So basically, you do have salt marsh elder, and Jeff Johnson had written me an email and said that, there was a 25 to 30 foot wide section landward of that salt marsh line. That was predominantly salt marsh elder, switchgrass, Spartina patent, seaside goldenrod, cedar, and poison ivy, which are all obligate wetland plants. So that's what we're kind of grappling with, is how to label that. Do you label it salt marsh? Do you label it fresh BBW? You've got to label it something. So, Joel's right, it's not going to really change how the project, that the new house is situated, because the old house was, it is pulling it back ever so slightly. It may change the mitigation calculations, but I can't see, by that much. So that's what we're grappling with right now.
what's the most conservative,
Most conservatives, you run another wetland line 30 feet, 25, 30 feet this way, if they, but the only way to tell is to do the data sheets and see if the vegetation trips it. And those weren't provided. You can put that. That's, Joel, that's just Jeff's correspondence. Okay. So, I mean, if
Is
the
that
board's
something we could
comfortable, you
condition,
cannot
or-
determine, or if you want to do the data sheets, you can do a continuance, or, it's really up to the board.
if I may, the only sticking point right now is what we're calling it. You're acknowledging it's there, the house project part of it isn't, it's just what we're gonna call it, type of thing.
Right now, it's not being called anything. Being called
Except an
a
issue.
clearing, so,
Yeah.
Is it something we could condition and ask that they,
yeah, I can ask Jeff to do the data sheets on
you
it.
know,
Yeah.
yeah,
And that would be reflected, the data is the data, and that would be reflected on the revised
Yeah.
plan if necessary.
yeah, in the record, right, and then we'd have that.
You okay with that, Joel?
I don't have a problem with that. I don't see what this, again, the board could decide to,
I'm not approving it without a resource area, that's not gonna happen.
Okay.
All right, that's off the shelf. I appreciate that, but no, that's not gonna happen.
So basically, they can close the hearing, or you can continue it, with your, we put you on the 3rd, and Jeff and I and Mark can go out there and hash out the DBW data sheets, and if it doesn't trip the thing, we just leave it the way it is. If it doesn't trip the predominant stuff.
okay, so you're saying 30 feet where the edge of the
Well,
brush
that's
is
what
right
Jeff
now?
was saying,
Okay.
like 30 feet landward of
Yeah,
that
I mean,
line.
that brush,
Yeah,
Okay.
it's that landward area. So, all we have to do is do a couple of soil holes out there. I know Jeff did some,
Right.
sandy soil, we have found 3 inches alone with the sand. And I talked to him about this today. The only really conclusive way to do it is the data sheets.
But it's not gonna change the,
It's not gonna change the project.
right, so, could we go ahead and close this
Yeah,
and say that we would need this information for the,
yeah.
Yes, because it's very specific.
yeah? So I'll make a motion to close the hearing, take it under advisement,
Second.
With the caveat of the
with the caveat of the
information being provided with the data.
data sheets
Okay.
and properly marked on the plan, new set of plans, marking that for the record.
Okay. We
So
have,
can you tell Jess to give me a call tomorrow? We can schedule to go out there probably Friday.
okay,
Okay?
absolutely.
Russell's motion, Mike's second. At this point in time, is there anyone in the audience that would like to address this project? Any last comments on the board? Call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstention? Unanimous, so moved. For the record. Thank you.
Very much.
Okay. Next is 18 Willis Lane, East Falmouth, Mass. For permission to demolish the existing dwelling and detached garage to construct and maintain a 4-bedroom, single-family house with a garage, breezeway, stairs, decks, and patios with stairs, install native mitigation plantings, utilities, outdoor showers, utility platform, landings, dry wells, walkways, a Presby Enviro septic system, to reconfigure the driveway, conduct invasive plant species management, and associated clearing, excavating, grading, and landscaping.
Mr. Chairman, once again, I must recuse myself.
Okay.
You get a lot of breaks for your first night, huh?
Yeah, really. Good evening.
Good evening, Joel Kubik with Holmes McGrath again. You've seen this project, at Lisa's property, recently when they came in before you to have the riprap repaired, and that was approved by the board. In addition, that went through selectmen's approval. Now this new project is to tear down the existing home and build a new one. And again, replacement of the septic system, a leach pit with a new Title V, actually a Presby alternative irrigated system, which also got Board of Health approval just recently. There are some reconfigurations of the driveway and some of the landscaping, significant planting in the FWRA zone for mitigation plants. There's also some restoration planting. Teresa Sprague is here with Blue Flax Design to answer some questions if you have any on the restoration and mitigation plantings. I believe it's an improvement on the project as it's being pulled back from the resource areas, and the significant amount of plantings are an improvement. I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you. Jen?
Yeah.
Sure. Teresa, please.
Good evening, Teresa Sprague, Blue Flax Design. I'll just give you a quick overview of the existing conditions. Property lies on the northern shore of Vineyard Sound. Wetland resource areas on the property include coastal beach, coastal bank, land subject to coastal storm flowage, land subject to tidal action, land under the ocean, and land containing shellfish. You're familiar with the stone revetment that's going to be repaired, which was approved earlier in 2015. There's a dense thicket of invasive and non-native aggressive and native vegetation which separates the top coastal bank from the existing lawn areas, about 4,400 square feet. The vegetation in there is Rugosa rose is the dominant shrub in the thicket, which is outcompeting some native bayberry that's in there. Native species include bayberry. There's also a few black cherry trees. I'm calling them trees only because they're Prunus serratina. They've been managed as shrubs for clearly a significant period of time. You can see the images of these trees right here. They are very poorly formed. Even with the best regenerative pruning, would never reach mature canopy size. In addition to that, the area, native shrubs throughout the area are being smothered by bittersweet vine, which is tangling within the Rugosa rose and the existing bayberry within the area. Trees on the site, predominant canopy trees include several different oak species, pitch pine, eastern red cedar, particularly along the east and west property line. The understory and ground cover layer are dominated by invasive species, including shrub honeysuckle, bittersweet, and vine honeysuckle. You can see in these images here. Several of the oak trees are severely infested with snake and wasp on the property. So as far as the mitigation plan and restoration plan, we're proposing 2,781 square feet of mitigation in what is currently existing turf within both the Zone A and Zone B, 1,613 square feet of planting and existing turf in Zone A, 1,168 square feet of planting in Zone B. This directly abuts the 4,400 square foot invasive species management area and therefore creates a substantial contiguous vegetated buffer to the coastal resource area where none currently exists. We are proposing an area of planting of native grasses. 428 square feet is shown in that brown area on the plan. We are not counting that as mitigation. So the 2,781 square feet of mitigation is solely woody vegetation. I did meet with Jen and reviewed the plan prior to filing. She did ask me to change some of the species that were there, so we changed out the Rus aromatica to bayberry.
Thank you.
So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions. As far as invasive species management, we go into a lot of detail on that in page 6 of our land management plan, starting with a pre-treatment of selective herbicide pre-treatment, giving that 3 to 5 weeks to translocate to the root system. A mix of hand and mechanical removal. Generally, this will be hand removal because we are protecting the bayberry, the existing bayberry that's in here. Vines reaching up into healthy trees will be cut and treated at the ground, allowed to decompose before being removed so that we don't damage the trees. Follow-up treatments, of course, as usual, will begin in the winter of 2016, continue through late summer, fall for the next 3 growing seasons. We would propose to remove those black cherries and replace them with shrubs that were allowed to reach mature fruiting size, and people won't be out there hacking at them trying to turn the trees into shrubs. After the intensive invasive species management area, all bare soils will be seeded immediately, and then we would propose to replant in the spring of 2016, presuming that we start the invasive species management project in late summer, fall of 2015. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions about the mitigation plan.
Thank you.
I don't have any questions. I've already met, the house project's a much larger footprint, but pretty straightforward, and I've already met with Teresa on the restoration and mitigation, so she took care of the concerns I had on that, so I'm fine.
Thank
Okay, and I need to run downstairs as well.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes. Mike?
Trees, the existing trees along the east side, about how many and what are you proposing to replace them with?
So we are proposing to replace them with eastern red cedar. The trees that are on that side of the lot are shown in these images here. They're so smothered and tangled with vines. They're in really degraded form right now. I honestly don't have a specific tree count. We are proposing to restore 5 eastern red cedar trees along the 2 property lines in the areas where we're removing invasive species. So in this area to the south, there's some existing peach pines which will remain in place. They're in good shape. This area up here, there's there's a couple of the oak trees that I showed you that are infested with the synipid wasp. That would be removed as part of the house construction, and then the area would be restored with eastern red cedar.
Normally, we're looking at some kind of caliber inch, but it's looking at the vegetation, the tree, that, I don't think that.
There's some existing pitch pine out there, so the existing pitch pine and black pine will remain in place. They won't be removed. It's really just the degraded oak trees that are just completely smothered with vines and synipid wasp. They're broken. I don't even know as far as getting in there and calling them a tree. They're, like I said, they're in this shape here. They're broken off, snapped off, so they weren't located on the site plan as a standing tree.
Okay.
Does that answer it? Okay.
Montreal, where are you?
Russ?
You give me the sequence of how this is gonna go down. In other words, you're tearing the house down first, doing the existing order, rebuilding the revetment and all that, and then moving back landward? Is that how that's gonna go?
That's the plan right now. They're looking to get started on the riprap, actually, the end of this month. That's
So they demo the house first?
most likely, yeah.
Okay.
They can work around that, but that is a intent right now, is to do that.
Okay, because it's tight on both. So, okay, that's no more questions.
The only question I had was answered about the prairie grass, and it's not part of, not counted. And I also was pleased to see the two limits of work.
So, the only part that I don't like is most likely. I trip over that phrase a lot. You gotta give me a little bit of a comfort level on, that's what you intend to do type of thing. That's, the house is gonna come down, you're gonna work your way out, right?
That's obviously the ideal way to do this, just to make it, and I believe that's the owner's interest, is to do it that way.
Okay.
So
Because you're already permitted for the other one.
exactly, yeah, but we
And-
were permitted for that before this, and we were gonna work around the house, so I'm just saying that
Yep,
they might start before the house is actually torn down is all.
okay. And
Yeah.
that gives me a comfort level.
There you go.
You know, then as the permit comes from this, they mash it down and finish off. Okay, so I like to hear
Perfect
that, because
world, yeah.
I
I
want
don't wanna
people to be
Put words in your mouth, but
clear about what's going on, because,
Tom, I did have one more
Please.
question I forgot to see on my notes. Is the existing septic system in Title V, or is it cesspool?
it's just a cesspool.
Okay.
Jill, what was that? I was making noise over here and Susan couldn't hear your answer.
It's a cesspool.
Successful,
Yeah.
thank you.
okay, if we have enough information,
I make a motion to close the hearing and take it under advisement.
Second that?
that's Moore's motion, Russell's second. At this point in time, is there anyone in the audience who would like to speak to this project? Okay. Well, call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstention? Unanimous, so moved. If you could do me a favor and just reach out to the hall and tell Jim you can come back, please. Thank you.
So those pictures in your land management? Yeah, they're all in the land. Yeah, okay, thank you. Thanks, Jill. I've just been a call in the morning. Thank you.
Moving right along. We have 33 Green Meadow Lane, East Falmouth, Mass. For permission to install an in-ground swimming pool, pool terrace, pool fence, spa, fire pit, dry wells, native mitigation plantings, deck stairs, and the associated clearing, excavating, grading, and landscaping. Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. Members of the commission, welcome.
Thank you.
No, belated congratulations.
Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, my name is Michael Borselli from Falmouth Engineering, and I represent the applicant, Jay and Donna Kane. The Kanes own a property at 33 Green Meadow Lane. It's a typical residential house lot, and they would like a pool. The lot is developed as you would expect most residential lots, with landscaping lawn areas, and in the backyard, there's some grassy areas. I guess I'd call it like a Cape Cod lawn. It's not a real turf lawn, it's sandy. And at the very far corner, northwest corner, shown in green here, green dashed line is a wetland, a bordering vegetated wetland that was flagged by Vaccaro Environmental. We submitted the data sheets on that. So this falls into the category of redevelopment in your regs at FWR 10.18. There's an associated 50-foot no disturbance zone A and then an outer 50-foot buffer zone B. The project's been designed to be entirely in the outer buffer zone B, which your regulations allow. It was designed that way, in fact. That boundary is shown for A is here, and then you can see the B. So the buffer is presently altered, and in doing the project, we're proposing to provide mitigation planting as shown in this crosshatched area that will result in the A zone being fully restored with native plantings and buffer where it currently doesn't have. This wetland is, we call it like a pocket wetland. It's a very small, isolated, vegetated wetland. It's not adjacent to other wetland resources. It's actually surrounded by other homes. It's not near any coastal wetlands. So we believe that we designed this in a way that meets your performance standards. As with pools, for safety, you need to have a security fence around the pool. So we're proposing the security fence around the pool so that it's right adjacent to, but outside the no disturbance zone A. In fact, the limit of work pretty much tracks the same line as the pool security fence for the pool. There'll be a small surround of concrete for decking around the pool. We're proposing a dry well in the event that the pool needs to be drawn down for maintenance or backwashing or things like that. So that pretty much sums it up. We're of the opinion it meets the standards and is approvable, and we're happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mike. Jen?
Mike, can you follow me here for a minute? Here where you say limit of, your little dash line, the limit of, and help me regroup here.
Limit of work.
What is out there? And that edge, what's in that area between your word limit and edge? Is that your Cape Cod line? I can't remember off the top of my head.
Limit of work and edge.
So you're going to the west from limit?
Yeah,
Over here?
Yes.
so limit over to the word edge, where you have
Okay.
edge of wood. Yeah.
This dark squiggly line, if you can see it,
Yeah.
Yeah.
is the edge of like clearing or the tree line, if you will.
Okay.
On this side is the native buffer, on that side is the Cape Cod lawn.
Is the Cape Cod line?
And it actually drifted into the A zone.
Okay, so here's where I'm going with this. You're
Yep.
filling up your A zone, which is great, and that's what the regs say, that you're not required to provide any mitigation, once you fill up that A zone.
Yes.
But Mary would get you on, as but Mary's not here, so, it does say in the regs that you have to show some sort of improvement. You either supplement the mitigation, do something. If you wanna look along with me, it's, no mitigation plantings are required for work within zone B. It's, 10.
I thought it said improvement is
18E.
encouraged.
Yeah, so, well, no, improvements encouraged, and then number 3 says, it's either 2 or 3 that say they're encouraged, and then 5 say, no mitigation buffer planting shall be required for work within zone B where naturally vegetated buffer meets the resource area buffer distances, blah, blah, blah. But improvement, any of these areas described, it must be provided. Improvements to other resource areas may include but are not limited to planting of native landscaping or wildflower meadows and preference of lawn removal or control of invasive. Page 61.
I'm with you.
Okay, so I'm wondering if maybe you could throw some more mitigation over in that area where that Cape Cod lawn is, and that could be your improvement. That's all I'm saying. And
So-
that's my only comment, Mr. Chairman.
So
Yeah,
ma-
like in that area.
I think that's reasonable.
Okay.
I can't speak to the client. I wish I could, because I haven't heard from the other members, but it would have been great if there were no other issues to close it tonight, and I don't think we'll be able to if you want us to do that. I think my client would be happy to do it. Yes, I do.
Okay, good.
I think my client would be willing to do that. I just can't speak for him. And I know you probably wouldn't make it a condition because you don't like to do that. But I think that's reasonable.
It's up to the board, but that's what I'm saying. Okay, so in that little area right in there.
Mhm.
But those are my only comments, Mr. Chairman. I mean, other than that, it meets all the performance standards. You just needs to find a way to offer that improvement that's written in number 5, so.
Thank you, Jen.
No problem.
Mike?
How deep's the pool, Mike?
Are you concerned about groundwater?
Yeah, I think you're above it.
Yeah, I believe at the deepest point it's 5 feet, but these pools, the elevation of the ground is
Eight?
about 8.5. So when groundwater's a problem, they actually have built in these pools now. I didn't know this till very recently on a job in Bourne. They have like a relief valve at the bottom. So if for some reason the groundwater rose and you have hydrostatic pressure, it actually blows up into the pool.
Rather than lose the pool.
Right, and it's designed to do that. Have you ever heard of that?
Into the overflow, no?
Have you ever heard of that? Yeah. But I don't think we're in the groundwater. And I don't know if the pool companies are aware of that and they incorporate that in if there's an issue with groundwater.
And you don't think, about how many yards of sand are we gonna be trying to get down by the side of that house?
Oh, it's gonna be, I didn't calculate it, but it'd probably be less than 10. Less than 10. We're trying to design this at grade. There's a slight grade change, but we're trying to keep it close to grade.
Great. Sounds doable to me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Russ?
I know this is out of our purview. You gotta take down those cedar trees that were kinda hiding that propane tank pad. It's kinda on the east side of the pool terrace where you got drywall indicated.
Oh, over here?
Yeah. There's some beautiful cedar trees, there's, like 6 of them. And
I,
it looked like it was hiding what was a propane pad at one
yeah.
time.
I have no knowledge of that.
Okay.
It's not on you wouldn't need
Yeah.
to do it for sun because the southern exposure would be the other way. No one's mentioned that to me.
That's all I've got, Mr. Chairman.
Jamie?
Good.
Lori?
I'm all set, thank you.
Okay. So, the only concern was the little bit of number 5, so that we could make it a little more palatable.
Are you meeting next week?
No, yes, we are, but. wait a minute.
20th.
Next
20th.
week's other.
But if I'm only doing that mitigation.
No, the 20th we are. Don't confuse me, Susan. Sorry. I mean, if you want to continue to next week, we probably could. It's very simple.
Yeah, I don't think you're willing to close it, or I'd say close
Yeah, we
it.
can do it next week,
Right.
Mr. Chairman. That's
Right.
fine.
We could take a motion on behalf of the applicant.
On behalf of the applicant, move to continue the hearing till May 20th.
Yep.
Second.
That's Russell's motion, and Lori's second. That's to continue it to next week for the,
Adding improvements to the resource area.
And think about those cedars while you're
yeah,
thinking
just,
about that planting.
which I'm sure he will.
I'm sure you will.
At this point in time, we have a motion on the table. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to talk to this project? Yes, ma'am, if you could come up to the podium. You can, just if you could, just,
You want me to stand here?
yes, please.
Could I ask you a question?
Yes, you can.
Ask them a question, okay.
Sure.
My property boards the back of the land, they want to put the pool in.
Okay.
And I just wondered how close to my land the pool was going to be.
Okay. Can you show her mic, please?
10 feet. You guys are 10 feet off the property line. Are you Shellman?
Yes,
At this closest point, it'll be 10 feet off the property line.
I see. And also, I wanted to ask about my fence. I have a wooden fence there, and I wanted to make sure it wasn't going to be anywhere near the fence.
There's a post and rail fence, and
Yeah.
the pool is not proposed to interfere with the fence.
Won't be anywhere near it. All right.
It'll
And
be
on my,
near it, but it won't interfere with it.
All right, my other question is that would any drainage from the pool be coming into my land?
That would be,
Overflow or whatever?
I think they showed a drywall.
they're showing a dry well on the plans, and he is, as in good stewardship, should contain all of his runoff.
That won't
Anything,
be coming, because the reason I'm asking is because the people next door have a pool and they have a hose going under their fence into my property, and I don't know.
well,
And I
that's
just want to
not,
make sure it wasn't a continuing thing.
as presented, and as we're permitting it, that isn't supposed to happen.
Okay.
So that if you, in the future, saw that happen, you could bring that to our attention. Because we wouldn't want anybody draining down into the into that wetland area.
And my other concern was that when they do the landscaping, that there will be no debris thrown over my fence.
And I can almost assuredly guarantee you that that won't happen. And if perchance it did, we have a nice recourse because we have it in an order of conditions that has a specific line in there on site management and removal of debris.
And any landscaping, any cuttings that will not be thrown over the fence into my property either.
I have
This has
a,
happened in the past, so I'm just concerned about that. It's not a dumping ground.
Contractors, if something happens, you can give us a call, we can go down, stop the project, something like that, but I mean.
I just don't want it to be
sitting
used
here,
as a
I mean,
dumping
it really depends on
ground,
who
because
they
it is
hire.
woods.
We can't guarantee anything,
I know.
but, you know,
Yes.
if something happens, we can assist you in righting the situation, okay?
Thank you very much.
and happily to do so, because I'm a real jerk sometimes on the site.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, down.
It's just woods down there, and so a lot of people
No, I
think it's
understand
free
that.
dumping ground, you
And
know?
I want you to be very clear on one thing. When Mr. Porcelli said the pool was 10 feet from the property line, that's the actual pool. The terrace, the patio, is going to be, what, Mike, a foot off that property line?
Like 2 feet?
2 feet off the property line. I just wanted to make sure that you were clear on that.
I see, all right.
Okay.
I wasn't clear on it, thank you
Yeah.
for clearing it
Mm-hmm.
up.
Okay.
Okay, that's all, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, the terrace.
Thank you for coming.
You're welcome. And we are, and I am someone who takes site management very seriously, and so, Mr. Porcelli,
When you have time, you should come down and take a walk down my path, and I'll show you people that have been dumping, you know.
that's
But
good,
I don't know who they are, because of course,
that's good to know.
otherwise that's not the issue here today.
Thank you for the invite.
Mr. Chairman, ma'am, we need your name for the record.
Sure. Shellman, Chealman, Joan.
Thank you, Michelle.
Thank you all.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Is there any further discussion from the audience?
I actually had one question.
Yes,
Are
please.
they going to use that equipment pad for any of the mechanics of the pool? That little one in the corner?
That equipment pad is
For the pool?
Yeah.
So, just listening to that woman, I was just wondering if it's going to, you know, everybody tries to put the noise away from their house, and that it has some sort of, maybe a sound deadening fence or something around it, because I know I work next to people's pools and they hum all the time. I don't know if that's our issue or not, but
Her house is way far away. I mean, it's all woodland there.
Yeah.
Not way far away, but it's up north of here significantly.
okay.
You'll be competing with the pool next door.
Yeah, I know, that's.
Well, that's the biggest problem, is it's not considered a structure, so
Yeah, I
there's
know,
no setback
setbacks.
on it, so.
They can
I
put
mean,
it right
same with
there.
generators, we run into that
Yeah.
all the time,
Yeah.
so.
So if,
We just ask to be considerate of your
I request a
neighbors.
continuance to
right, we did, we get a motion and a second.
A second.
Can you remind me, other than the mitigation, am I supposed to provide anything else?
We also wanted to know about the cedar trees.
Yeah, and that concrete pad, because it looked like there was propane there at one time, because I found a gas, copper line sticking out of the ground, so I said, the assumption was, yeah, it looked like propane and converted to
Always find
natural.
those tanks.
It happens.
Yeah.
There's a natural buffer for pool equipment.
Actually, you're right. Yeah, you can put the.
So we have
Yeah,
the motion and a second. Is there any further requests on the applicant before we take a vote? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstention? Unanimous, so moved. Thank you, Mike.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Have a nice one.
And moving along is 34 Edgewater Drive East, East Falmouth, Mass, for permission to construct a 7-foot by 20-foot deck to remove pavement and replace with lawn, to prune bayberry to 5 foot, and the associated clearing, excavating, grading, and landscaping. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, for the record, my name is Michael Borselli from Falmouth Engineering, and I represent the applicant, Equity Land Holdings LLC, represented by Ed Lewis, who's in the audience tonight, and resides at the property. Property is on Edgewater Drive East on the waters of Childs River. In a residential neighborhood, there's an existing circular driveway and a side driveway. There's an existing licensed dock. There's an existing concrete boat ramp. There's a sliver of coastal beach at the base of a concrete retaining wall. The house is several decades old in a neighborhood of older homes. And it's sited such that there's no way to put a standard deck that you might want to enjoy on the front side of the house because of requirements under your rules and also zoning requirements. So Mr. Lewis has lived here for a long time and thought about how to best find a way to get more outside living space. And we consulted with him, and he's consulted with an architect, and the only real solution is to try to add a small section of deck off the existing deck on the south side of the house. So that's what we're proposing. There's a deck that we're proposing that measures 7 foot by 20, so that there'll be a large enough workable outside deck area for table, chairs, and family gathering. So this is also a redevelopment project. And your redevelopment standards say that you can alter pre-existing structures and do improvements as long as the improvements don't go closer to the wetland resources than the primary structure. So the primary structure is the house, which is shown in the tan color. And the closest point of the house to the most landward resource area is 35 feet. So we jogged the deck in slightly and are proposing the closest point of the 7 foot wide side of the deck to be 35.5 feet back from the same wetland resource, so it doesn't go closer. It is adding on to an existing deck, and if you've been to the site or look closely at the plan, part of the proposed deck is going to be over an existing paved driveway. So that's not an increase in impervious surface because it's occupying the same space. There is another section that's proposed over lawn. So that would increase impervious surfaces, and in this instance, it would require a 3-to-1 mitigation unless we found a way to reduce impervious surfaces in other areas. So we did. There's more than enough pavement here, so we're proposing to not only remove the pavement under the deck that we don't get credit for because we're adding deck back, but we're proposing to remove a section of pavement and then replant that with Falmouth-friendly lawn. So that'll result in a net zero on increases in impervious surfaces, so there's no mitigation required. The deck would be, typical deck construction, sonotube footings. It'll be enclosed with a skirt to hide the underneath, and perhaps you could store some things underneath of it. The only other activity proposed is over here. There's some bayberry that was planted, and it's become extremely tall, so it impacts the views. And we met with Jen, and Asked her if it'd be possible to prune that. Tried to persuade her to let us do it to 3 feet, but
Yeah, that wasn't gonna happen.
immediately we were told that wasn't going to happen. And we settled on 5 feet, minimum height of 5 feet. So we were hopeful that you could approve us
That's what it says in the regs, Mark.
pruning that to 5 feet. That sums up the project. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Jen?
No questions?
Mike?
No questions.
Russ?
No questions.
Jamie? Maury?
I just had one question. I don't know what's been going on but in the past, but do you feel that the lawn is mitigation for the,
It's
Is
the
one
removal of
consider-
impervious
okay,
surface.
that's all it
Just
matters.
swap.
Okay,
Yeah,
I didn't know.
swapping it out.
No question.
Okay, if we have enough information.
Make a motion to close the hearing and take it under advisement?
Second.
Okay, that's Maury's motion, Mike's second. At this point in time, is there anyone in the audience who would like to speak to this project? Any further discussion? Nope.
Back.
Please.
You're on the right track.
Thank you. That was Mr. Lewis, just for the record. So, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstention? Unanimous, so moved. Thank you so much. Next is continue to request for a notice of intent. Let me say that again. Continue request for hearing under a notice of intent. And this is 286 Ashumet Road, East Falmouth, Mass. For permission to restore degraded dry wetland habitat by creating 3 small, shallow vernal pools of varying size totaling approximately 4,800 square feet within the existing wetland basin.
Hey, Ralph, can you save the plans and put them in a box downstairs? Well, for the applicants, do they take them back so they can use them for their projects? Somebody asked me that. Here it is. Well, you know,
Say that again?
well, you have to just throw all these extra plans away. Well, they're expensive, and everybody, I need them. Nothing, just us.
I'd love to see it cut down. We kill more trees than we plant.
Well, they're just, plans are so expensive, if you give them back to the engineer, and we're done, and they can give them to the septic guy, the landscape guy.
That's a good point.
After being on that side
Or
of
you're in
it,
charge
you're
of
always looking for copies.
We all have the plans.
And each whacking probably pretty hard to get a copy, right?
Okay, excuse me?
Oh, it's the one mark,
You're not listening.
it's the ones with the orange mark, the 2 switches you turn off the power for.
Sorry.
Oh, look, you marked them. I still can't do it.
Thank you.
Are we good?
Great.
Good evening.
Good evening, Chairman and Commissioners. My
How
name's
long
Ian
did it
Ives,
take us to figure that one out?
and I'm the Sanctuary Director for the Mid and Upper Cape Sanctuaries of Mass Audubon, including Ashumet Holly Sanctuary in East Falmouth. And I wanted to present to you a project, a wetland restoration project that is part of a larger conservation, or endangered species conservation, I should say, and wetlands restoration project at a number of our sanctuaries across the Mid and Upper Cape, including Long Pasture Wildlife Sanctuary, where I'm based, in Barnstable, and the Ashumet Holly. And we came to a meeting maybe back in 2011 to talk about restoring a site at Ashumet Holly in what was a natural functioning vernal pool at the site that was filled in the 1930s, thereabouts, by Wilfred Wheeler, who was the prior owner of the property that's now Ashumet Holly Sanctuary. And he filled it and cultivated cranberry there. And Mark Kaspersick and I walked through, took a look at it, did some delineation, thought about what it would entail. And at the time, we just weren't ready to take on the project for a number of reasons, financial reasons, capacity reasons, and so on. we ended up building a series of upland wetlands. I say build, we were creating these in uplands away from jurisdictional wetlands using a liner. And I've got some photographs I can show you. Since that time, since 2011, we've built about 10 of these wetlands between the Shumat and Long Pasture. And these wetlands are designed specifically for the eastern spadefoot toad, which we're working to conserve. This is a species most people, including myself, have never seen. It spends most of its time 4 feet under, except for rainy nights. It comes out, breeds, eats ants. And the wetlands that it relies on for its survival have been filled and drained and ditched over the years, mainly for farming. And at the sanctuaries that we oversee in the Mid-Never Cape, we've seen a lot of evidence of this. We've seen draining and filling and ditching. And that's what happened here at Shumat. And we've got records and old ecological management plans of this wetland, which was at the time a very shallow kettle hole that was filled and used to propagate cranberry. And so presumably during that time there was a somewhat healthy population of spadefoots at the sanctuary, but since then the population's really declined and we haven't seen any evidence of it until really recently. So what I thought I'd do is just give you a little presentation that, because a lot of these techniques and activities that we're proposing are relatively unusual, especially for your Conservation Commission, I'm sure, and just an opportunity to share with you what we're up to, and then I can answer questions, of course, and so on. But do you have a way to forward? Should I just walk back and forward?
You know what, I can go over there.
Okay, thank you.
And this is the site that you're going to be using for your workshop, correct?
That's right, yes. Yeah, that's right. We have a workshop in June, which some of your staff will be attending.
Yes.
I also want to thank GIS department for putting together these maps for us pro bono. That was very helpful. Again, on a shoestring budget, my sanctuary doesn't have the funds to get professional engineering plans done. This really expedited the process, made things much easier.
And we worked with Mark and Bob Shea to help Ian.
Bob Shea was fantastic. You can also reference as I go along the narrative here that I put together that has some photographs. I also have accompanying maps that show you the site. Are you all familiar with the site within the Shumat Holly? Okay. It's just to the north of Grassy Pond, or Flashy Pond, which is a large coastal plain pond. And you can see that there in the lower blue area. The basin of the wetland that we're proposing to restore is outlined in green. You can see down below, it's hard to read here, but you can see it on your own individual maps. The approximate area and volume of the project is stated below. The area of the vernal pools is approximately 4,800 square feet, and the total volume that we're proposing to alter is about 2,400 cubic feet. So this is a very small space, but very significant, again, especially for rare species of vernal pool obligates, including the spadefoot toad. So within that green circle, presently, is a lot of overgrowth, a lot of red maple, a lot of tall bush blueberry that has settled into what was once the cranberry bog. There's very little water that holds there year-round. Maybe on very wet years, we might have 3 or 4 inches for a period of a week or two. Normal years, there's no water. If you walked out to the site now, there's no water at all. Yet at the same time, it's very close to the groundwater table at Flashy or Grassy Pond. Very, very close. So those colors within the green outline there represent 3 small groundwater wetlands that we're proposing to restore within that existing basin. And we chose to do 3 of them because what we've learned from 5 or 6 years of studying the spadefoot toad is that they like to have very, very shallow wetlands that don't hold water long, very ephemeral wetlands. And they also like a variety of different depths. And so instead of just restoring the entirety of the basin, we thought we would do a variety of smaller wetlands of different shapes and sizes that might give the spadefoot toad, just the right conditions on any given year. So in other words, some of the depths of these might be more than others. The purple might be a little bit deeper than the yellow. The mustardy color might be a little bit deeper than the purple. Therefore, we provide variety for the toad. And of course, for all the other things it might use it to. Okay, so this is the general map here. You can go to the next one, Jen. Yeah, thank you. Oops, I guess you got to click a couple buttons to get all the dots to spring up. There we go. So these are our goals for the entirety of this project amongst our different sanctuaries, and these are all
applicable to this project here. We're looking to restore altered non-productive land to its prior productive state, okay, as a vernal pool, increase the biodiversity within the sanctuary for amphibians, avian invertebrates, and more, provide habitat for target species, the eastern spadefoot toad in particular, right? Provide resiliency by cleaning, the things that we hear about all the time, reducing flooding and recharging groundwater, and establishing a living classroom for education and citizen science. And this, to me, could be one of the strengths of the project, in that we have opportunity to share these activities, new techniques with professionals, wetland professionals, as we do with the wetland workshop, but also with students. And I'll talk a little bit about that, citizen scientists as well. There's not much to see in this, and I apologize for the lack of depth or clarity. This is just an image taken last summer of the site. And you can see just how much has grown in now that there is no water there to back these trees out. This is the upland habitat around the site. It's very sandy. It's great for a spadefoot toad. They like to be able to burrow. We had to do an upland habitat assessment too at the site to determine if this was right. This is an example of a liner wetland. This is not what we're proposing for this site, but again, we were looking to restore or build wetlands in the uplands, and the only way to do that is using a liner, because of course, with the sand we have in this environment, you never get to hold water. These are very shallow wetlands. We would never be able to dig far enough down to hit the water table at these upland sites, so we used a liner. And just really quickly for your information, that's a fish-safe liner that's fabricated in Oklahoma and utilized for landfills and all sorts of aquatic projects, and it's been utilized by the wetland technician who we work with on this project named Tom Biebenhauser. This is an example of the wetlands workshop participants installing this liner wetland, we call it. Okay, so I just wanted to show you a few photographs of the liner wetland just to give you an idea. Again, these are some of the wetlands that are currently existing at the sanctuary. This is just completed spadefoot pool, so about 24 inches deep is the maximum depth we'd want to make it for this species. If it's any deeper and the hydro period's any longer, then the spadefoot toad tends to get out-competed by other creatures. So these are designed to be very shallow. They're meant to replicate the habitat that you might find at Sandy Neck Barrier Beach or out in the province lands where the spadefoot's got a stronghold. Very shallow, often just swales, cranberry bog swales. So just 7 months after completion, the wetland's filling and holding water. The liner is holding it in place. We've laid woody debris in after building in order to provide a wildlife habitat. All the plants that you see around self-seeded on their own. We had a budget on our first wetlands project to plant a bunch of vegetation and realized we really didn't need to because the seed bank was there. Once the water filled, the plants came. In fact, it's been a challenge to keep some of the undesirable plants out in some of these wetlands that we've built. So this is a series of photographs that represents this groundwater wetland technique that we're proposing for this particular site. And this differs from the liner wetland, in that we're not using a liner, and that what we're really doing is utilizing the fact that we're very close to the water table at this site near Grassy Pond, and what we're doing is scouring, we'll remove the vegetation, scour the duff, and just dig down upwards of 9 to 10 inches the most to get to that water table. And so these are photographs taken last year and in 2013 at our Long Pasture Wildlife Sanctuary using the same exact technique and equipment that we'll be using here. So we utilize a excavator, 300 series excavator from Bortolotti Construction, and we found that this is by far and away the most efficient and least impactful way to do this. If we were to use a corps of 30 AmeriCorps students or what have you to do the job, it would require many days and a lot more impact. And I was astounded to see just how amazing this machine works and how accurate the job can be done with a skilled operator. So we have a skilled operator doing the project for us. So removing the mineral soil, actually back up one, I'm sorry, Jen.
Sorry.
It's okay. This is just an example of the excavator taking the vegetation out of the basin. This is what will be taking place at this particular site too. All the maple and so on that's been growing in will need to be removed. And then on the next slide, you can see that the excavator is actually removing the mineral soil of the top layer and piling it behind the excavator for reapplication afterwards. All that mineral soil will be saved. In the next slide, once you get down to a certain depth, we begin determining our wetland dimensions and depth. And this is where laser sights come in and the expertise of our wetland restoration technician, Tom Biebenhauser, there in the front. So we'll do a lot of measurements. We'll determine the depth that we'd like. This is all measured out. And then we'll go back to the operator and have him dig down, stopping along the way to take more measurements to make sure that we hit the depth. We really only have one chance of getting the depth right on these wetlands, and if we don't get it just right, we're in trouble. We'll have to come back. Don't want that. So creating desired dimensions using the excavator. All this work is done with the excavator and the help of a crew of individuals that are taking measurements. Forming the natural berm is a part of what we'll do here. The wetland we're working in, when filled, lost its natural berm, and we're looking to redesign that natural berm or bank along the edge of the wetlands, so the excavator can do that as well. And in some cases, compacting the soil down helps retain the water. In this case, with a groundwater wetland, it's not going to be necessary. We'll be at the groundwater. The water will be there naturally. You can see the soil behind, then replacing the topsoil is the last step. And we do so in a way that creates mounds and pits, a natural, we don't want that smooth Kmart surface that these guys are so used to doing. We want natural appearance for habitat, hiding places, and so on. Next slide, you can see we add basking sites occasionally, rocks for turtles and so on. And the last slide, sort of the final touches, we'll mulch the area to reduce any possible erosion that might take place a few days after the wetland is built. And we will add woody debris as needed. These slides represent a series of photographs covering about a year and a half. So this is a day after construction. This is, again, a surface water wetland, slightly different than what we're proposing, the same general principle. We happen to have a large rain right after the construction and it filled with water right away. Okay, so 3 months after, the same wetlands showing a lot of vegetation growing in. At this point, you barely know that the excavator was even there, amazingly. The next slide, the first winter, it's holding water. This is at Long Pasture. 1 year old, so following June, we see a lot of rushes starting to grow in. I realize these are just photographs. I'll explain a little bit about some of the biological stuff that you see too. Okay, second winter. All right, the next slide. This is representing the Wetlands Workshop, which is June 23rd and 24th of this year. Every year, this will be the 5th year of the workshop, where we really want to introduce professionals in the field, so hydrologists, land managers. We're trying to encourage a lot of local land trust managers to join this because we know that lots of land has been protected, but in some cases the land hasn't had an opportunity to be managed, especially with regard to wetlands. And as we've identified at our sanctuaries, there's all sorts of opportunity for wetland restoration. And so we want to teach these skills. And we also want people to realize that it doesn't have to be a hugely expensive, time-consuming, and complicated process to restore wetlands. We have the techniques now to do this, and we'd like to share those with everybody. Okay.
Staff will be attending.
Yeah.
Alex will be going.
We're also taking advantage of the newly created wetlands to do education in Falmouth High School and around the Mid and Upper Cape. And so we're taking regular measurements of the wetlands we've built. We're taking water quality samples. We're also censusing the biodiversity to see what's arriving and when. And not only looking at how the spadefoot toad is doing. And I think on the next slide, this is an example of a data sheet that we're using with high school students, where they get to take part in seeing colonization rates of species that move into these new wetlands. They get to learn about island biogeography and other concepts, conservation biology concepts, and they get to help with censusing, so they get to take part in real life science on the Cape. Okay, and then these are some examples of species that have been documented within the first year of building. One adult wild spadefoot toad actually found the wetland, and this is along with the translocation of spadefoot tadpoles that we're doing as well. Mass Natural Heritage Endangered Species Program has permitted us to take many tadpoles from Sandy Neck Barrier Beach, head start them in schools, and then release them to the newly restored wetlands. So part of the monitoring we're doing is to see what kind of return on that investment we're getting. And this will be a long-term study with the spadefoots, many years of raising and releasing before we see any real concrete results. That's going to take some time. But we've seen 12 invertebrate orders, invertebrates that have arrived, aquatic beetles and so on, vernal pool obligates that you'd expect to see. 5 amphibian species ID'd, breeding, which is impressive, including spotted salamanders that found these vernal pools within a year and began to breed. We've seen breeding bird occurrences, a lot of deer activity. We even saw fisher. So this is an example of what you can see. We sort of feel like you build it and they will come. Okay, yeah, the next one. Again, this is the Falmouth High School program taking place. lots of activities with schools. Those are the salamanders we found after the first year, quite a surprise. More than just a few accidentals, but they actually migrated to these new pools and were breeding. It was amazing. Okay. And again, we're doing a lot of monitoring. We're doing pitfall trapping around the vernal pools to look for the spadefoot toads that we're releasing. And on the next slide, we're also using digital audio recorders to listen for calls of spadefoot toads, which we hope will colonize after years of restoration. So how will we know if this project's a success in ecological terms? It's going to take many years before we know whether the spadefoot toad is going to take, so to speak, and we're in the really early stages of it now, but we've already seen evidence of a lot of other things colonizing. So we think it's a great project for many different reasons, and glad to share it with you. And I'm happy to answer questions if you have any. I know I glossed over the specifics on the narrative. If you look under page, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, page 4, project objectives and work plan sequence, it talks a little bit about the specifics. Wetland delineation and vegetation we've done, all the way down through A through G are the specific steps that we'll be taking specifically there at that site.
Thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
Jen, do you have anything
I
to say?
don't have any questions, Mr. Chairman.
I'm just going to open this up. If anyone would like to make a comment, please do.
I think this is great.
Alice is looking forward to her workshop.
I'm deeply encouraged when you were talking about Falmouth High School. I'm going to be dropping your name up at the Upper Cape Tech.
We work with them as well. They go to Ashumet weekly
Oh, good.
to work
And that's-
all sorts of citizen science activities and property management.
How did
They're
I know that
fantastic.
was a great answer?
Yeah, it's fantastic. Yeah, we've been doing it for a while.
I do recall when this was first, several years ago.
Yeah, it was 2011.
Yeah,
Yeah.
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 and
And,
heard of space, so.
I hadn't either.
I'm, just on a little thing, when you made the mention about you could hardly tell the excavator was in there.
Yeah.
Geez, when a good operator comes in
Yeah,
there,
I was thinking.
doesn't mean you have to have 495, and just, it's nice to have acknowledgement that you can do some finesse stuff if you're so
Yeah, you
inclined.
absolutely can.
Yeah.
Down to the finesse, down to picking up bunches of grasses, putting them aside and replanting them successfully into the newly created wetland. It's amazing what they can do if they're still.
These
Fort
are,
Lottie is excellent.
yeah, these are small steps going forward. And I look forward to more information being given
Yeah,
to us and
absolutely.
more success.
Yeah, we're going to continue. Sure.
My background's civil engineering. Ecological systems are much more complicated than the kind of things I do. Are we going to lose something while we do this, or is there a chance of creating something we don't want?
Right. Well, what we're trying to do is do as much background research on our target species of spadefoot toad as we possibly can so that we know what their specific needs are.
Okay.
And this is sort of a form of ecological engineering, really. And it does take a lot of expertise. I don't want anyone to feel like this is just simply digging a hole and then letting it go. We've got experts, several slides back I showed our partners. We've been partnering with USDA, NRCS, they've granted money. The U.S. Fish and Wildlife Partners Program, Tom Biebinghauser, who again runs the Center for Stream and Wetland Restoration. These are all experts with lots of experience in ecological restoration. It doesn't mean, and that's why I posed the question, how will we know if the project succeeds? It doesn't mean that there's a guarantee that the spadefoot toads, our target species, are going to take here. There's all sorts of variables that have to play out. But in terms of creating a wetland that is functioning, we feel very confident we can do that with the skills that we have. These are based on many lessons in the past of wetlands that haven't gone right, revetment basins and all sorts of other failed wetlands. But the techniques, and literally Tom Biebinghauser has written the book on this. He's got 2 books on these techniques. He's built thousands of wetlands across the country. And you follow specific steps, and you really do have to do background work to understand,
Well,
whether or not what you're creating is
you've
gonna
given me the sense of comfort. I mean,
Yeah.
one of my goals is do no harm.
Yeah,
and you start playing with the environment, and I'm concerned about which direction you drive things. But you've got the back homework. I'm comfy.
Yeah. Again, we have already played God, so to speak, in this wetland. We've filled it. It was a functioning wetland that was degraded. So what we are now doing is using the skills
Right.
that we've developed to restore that back to its former functioning state. That's a big part, but there's a lot we learned along the way. There's no doubt. We learned a lot from the first wetland we built. The depth wasn't quite right. We built it in a location that doesn't look like it's going to be suitable to keep invasive plants out. There's all sorts of different activities. I did mention a little piece in the narrative about how we're going to maintain some integrity of the invasive plants. A lot of people were concerned in past hearings in Barnstable about bringing in invasive plants to this new wetland. We're very careful about making sure the excavator is clean before it comes in. That's really the one concern. We're working in a site that's very native, that doesn't have much in the way of invasive plants, so we're not too concerned about that. But as long as we're not bringing anything with us, we should be okay. But these are great questions.
Please.
What is the spadefoot toad sounding? Is it different than,
You
you
want
know,
me
the
to
wood
make the sound,
frog?
don't you?
Well, I mean, I know wood frogs.
I can do
and
it,
things.
believe me.
Really?
I've gotten good at it, yeah.
Let me
It's
do
kind of,
That's
and
it.
when they chorus the most, yeah. If you can listen to it, Google it, you just Google it, there's all
Okay.
sorts of calls. It's very different than a Fowler's toad or an American toad, which look really similar. The sound is totally distinct, and when you hear it, you know. I also want to mention the Breivogel site, which you're all familiar with. We've been working with staff and Mark to maybe do some wetland restoration there in that existing pit, and maybe restore spadefoot toads there as well. So,
We have monitoring wells out there now that Alex and the 300 committee are working with Ian to see if that site is suitable.
and there's 6 other planned restoration projects. Might be using a liner in an upland, but there's still wetland creation or restoration projects. One at Falmouth Academy, one at Cape Cod Academy, several out in Chatham that we're working with local land trusts on as well. So we're feeling like the momentum is gaining. People are seeing the value and the success of these. So it is. I definitely will keep you posted as the project continues, because it's interesting stuff.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Thank you very
Very
much.
interesting.
So what we need is we have enough information with this presentation.
I'll make a motion to close the hearing, take it under advisement.
Second.
That's Russell's motion. Mike's second. Any further comment? Call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstention? Unanimous, so moved. If I could trouble someone to turn some lights back on?
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I know they're really excited about your workshop.
That's cool.
Okay. Next on the agenda is a request for extension of the orders of conditions, and this is Fiddler's Cove Entrance Channel, North Falmouth, Mass, for permission to maintenance dredge the channel approximately 300 feet from the south end of the canal north along the western side of the entrance channel to a depth of -7 feet at mean low water, dewater the dredge materials on a barge, download onto trucks and the associated grading.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, Phillips Code is asking for a 1-year extension. Their order expires at the end of May.
Okay. Is there any discussion on the board?
I make a motion
Pretty
to.
straightforward dredging project.
Okay. That was Maury's motion.
Make a move.
I'll second it.
Russell second. Any further discussion? Call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstention? Unanimous, so moved. Next, under other business, is discuss potential CPC application.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, conservation staff and the 300 committee have been approached by the town manager's office, and at their request, they're asking us to submit an application to the CPC to do a environmental assessment and kind of a planning study and permit analysis of the Shiverts Pond area. I've met with multiple groups over the past couple of years about the potential of establishing a pathway around the pond with some informational kiosks, and in particular, a more stable fishing pier on Sugar's Pond. Since the 300 committee has acquired the parcel and across from the bank, I think this is the momentum will be there. So as I said, at the request of the town manager's office, they've asked us to put in a CPC application. The 300 committee has already met and voted to partner with the town to do this. So I have a meeting tomorrow with the assistant town manager and 300 committee administrator to kind of flush out the details of how we're going to do this. It's a short deadline. It's June 3rd that we have to get the application in. We have to just kind of narrow down scope of work, which would be just, again, the environmental assessment and permitting analysis on, can we do this?
So what do we
So
need?
I would
A
ask
motion?
for just kind of a vote to go forward, partner with the 300 committee, and apply to the CPC for that they don't have a quote on what we would be asking for at this time. I'd have to come back with you with that.
Okay. Can we have a motion that kind of contains that verbiage?
Well, I make a motion to allow Jen to move forward with the
Thank you.
CPC application funding in partnership with the 300 committee.
It's not going to be a large amount. We're requesting 10,000 possible. So,
Okay.
Is that all right?
Yes,
Yeah,
that
yeah.
works. That's
All right, that's enough?
Maury's
Okay.
motion,
I think I heard Jamie second it.
and Jamie seconds. And any further discussion? Gonna call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstention? Unanimous, so moved.
thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Now, we have the orders of conditions
Which
that
we
are
can't
here. We
vote,
cannot,
because you do have a thing, so, Mr. Chairman, Russell, Mike, how's Tuesday morning?
what time?
Mr. Chairman, it's up to you. And you know how that.
It affects you the most.
Yeah, yeah, well,
I can call you,
Yeah.
remind you.
yeah, because I'll
What time
be,
do you gentlemen want to be here? Notice I'm not saying Monday morning, because I know what time you gentlemen are going to want to be here. We have plover training that day down in,
would,
How would you train a plover?
yeah, we'll talk.
the,
We'll discuss.
the train of thought here on Tuesday for a special meeting to be able to vote these orders,
We could do it Wednesday morning.
Well, would it be a big deal to do it after work, Tom? Would that be, like,
that's crappy,
no,
because I get,
see.
yeah, sorry.
We could do it Monday. I
No,
mean-
we could do it 7:30-ish?
Yeah, that's fine. Like I
7:30.
said, I will-
We'll say 7:30, that way I can get
If
in,
you want to be here.
yell and come.
Mr.
You get
Chairman,
calling out.
If you want to be here at 7, I can be here at
No,
7.
we'll do it at 7:30. That way, like I said, I can yell on site, and then you can call
You
and I'll
can
come
yell outside
running.
and then come back. Okay, great, 7:30 on Tuesday.
That'll work.
Okay?
7:30
post that.
Tuesday.
Fantastic.
Okay?
So now we have most of the business done on this agenda.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
That's Russell's motion, and Maury's second. All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Any abstention? Unanimous, so moved. Good night.